Hi there, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon. Today, our guest is Julie Fairhurst. And she was referred to us by a dynamic woman, Heather Hale. As I said to Julie when I first met her, everybody Heather knows is awesome. So thanks for joining us today, Julie.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we're excited. I have something in common with you. So I read through your bio, and we'll get into what you do. That's very exciting, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to hear some of the stories about what you do, but we'll save that. So I did something similar, but I didn't take it to the level that you took it. So I'm so excited to hear more. I composed a book of 19 stories written by women who had overcome great obstacles. You know, women who had one woman lost a child
Oh,
to drugs, another woman, two women fought breast cancer, you know, dealing with rape, women who had been sexually assaulted, story of a woman who lost her pet, just all these stories of women who had been devastated, but a tribute to how women can pull themselves together and just keep going. I mean, sometimes you just have to, right?
yes. Sometimes there's no other choice.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey to where you are and how you got there.
Okay. Well, so back in 1991, I went into sales, marketing, and promotional career. And I did that I actually just retired from that in February. So 34 years I was
Oh,
doing that. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. But in 2016, I started to think, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I knew I wouldn't do that forever, but and I felt that I was drawn to, or I should be doing something else, but I couldn't figure out what. I was lost. I started to get frustrated. I started to get a little bit depressed. I was getting burnt out from my job and I was losing my mojo for that. And so then one night I ended up having a dream. And in my dream, I was in a bright light, and it was just that stage when you're sleeping, but you're just not awake yet. And and in my dream, somebody said to me, "Okay, you have to go back now." And I remember feeling panicked, and I said, "Well, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here with you." I have no idea who this was. And I was told, "Well, no, you have to go back. You're not finished yet." And so then I said, but I don't know what my purpose is, because as this conversation was happening, I was feeling that I was waking up. And so I said, well, I don't know what my purpose is. And then I was told, well, you are your purpose. And I thought, well, duh, okay, I get that. That makes sense, but that still doesn't help me. And so just before I woke up, I remember saying, but I don't know what to do. And as I woke up, the word right popped into my head. So I thought I should write books for salespeople. That's what I meant to do, and coach salespeople. So I started doing all of that, which made complete sense because I had been doing it at that point for 25 years and I was very successful. But at that time, my heart just wasn't in it. When you're starting to get burnt out on an industry, the last thing you really want to do is show other people how to do it. So, although I'm doing that now, but I was burnt out. So in 2019, my husband and I moved into a new home, and the day we moved in, I got a phone call that my niece, 24-year-old niece, had died on the streets of Vancouver from a fentanyl overdose.
Mm.
And of course, we were devastated. And so we, went through the whole funeral. And the day of the funeral, or the evening of the funeral, I was at home, went to bed. I wasn't having a dream this time, but I laid there staring at the ceiling, just feeling that her death was so unnecessary. And what could I do? You know, and I knew that her death was an indirect result of my mother's trauma that my mother just was not able to deal with or heal. And she passed, and she, of course, had stuff passed to her, and then she passed stuff to us. I was quite turbulent in my 20s, thank goodness I was able to get out of it. My kids went through some stuff, but they're okay. But some of my siblings are not okay. And I have two brothers right now that are extreme drug addicts. And my one brother, it's his daughter that passed away. And she left on this earth a little fella without a mother and or a father. So I just thought, you know what? Like, what is going on? This is just ridiculous. This everything that's happening. And then I fell asleep and I woke up in the morning. I was having coffee and it just popped into my head. And I thought, if my mom could have gotten the trauma out of her body somehow, maybe she could have healed a little bit. Because I know that when we keep things in, that's not healthy. And so then, and I know there's all sorts of ways that we can do that. But then I thought, well, what if we could write, journal, like get it out that way? So I called 13 of my besties and said, hey, you guys want to write a book? And so in December 2019, the first Women Like Me book came to be. And so since December 2019, I have 36 published books now, of which 24, I think 24 of them are Women Like Me books. So I've helped since 2019 to now, I've helped 160 women tell their stories, and I've just started another book with another 10 ladies that will be launching that in December. So,
Wow, that's a
Wow.
lot. And it's so true about generational trauma. I mean, we're all damaged and we're just walking through life not realizing how damaged we are. And the people that think they're not at all are probably the ones causing spreading it, causing damage to other people, because you do, when you're hurt, you hurt other people.
yes,
And it's so important as a culture. I think we've been taught to, oh, just, you look fine, just keep going, get over it, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and just don't be so emotional or sensitive. And
yes,
I think that attitude is hurting us, all of us, more than anything at this
yes,
I think
stage.
one of the important things, and hello, Julie, nice to meet
John.
you. Even though you sent us your bio, I don't read the bios. I want to hear, because Kellie is great at pulling those stories out of people, telling us about it. And so I just like to hear it and then comment. So I really had no idea. I knew you were going to be on our show, but I figured, let me hear this story. One of the things that I think is important is the fact that you're up there in Vancouver. So here in America, we hear about this fentanyl all the time.
Mhm.
It's not, obviously, this is not just an American problem. It's it's up there.
Yes,
It's so if it's up there, it's in it's everywhere.
yes,
And
yes,
so this is happening to people everywhere. And like you and other people in our younger days, I went through my crazy stuff too.
yes,
Uh, but I was certainly out of that arena by the time fentanyl came around. I
yes,
really don't even know what it is, other than I
yes,
just hear about it.
yes,
And I and then for you to say that you currently, in this day and age, you have brothers who certainly are of our age.
yes, yes.
Adults.
Didn't the 70s and 80s teach us or them anything?
Well, I think what happens is that, and it certainly in my brothers, I have three brothers. One brother dealt with what was happening in our family differently, but still it caused him some trauma. But
Yep.
my other two brothers, it's they they just can't deal with it. They've never dealt with it. And the pain is there. And I was very fortunate because I was out of the house early. And I remember, and I moved quite a ways away. So I was distanced myself. And I think that's part of why I didn't go down that complete road that the rest of them went down. Thank goodness for me. But my brothers were in it. They were in it every day. And my mother, I remember one time being in the car with my younger brother, and he was driving. She had been drinking. I was catching a ride somewhere. And it was about a 20-minute ride. She belittled and put him down. I can't even tell you how nasty it was. I just sat in the back seat going, oh my goodness. And he just kept driving and he didn't say a word to her. And she was letting these horrible things being said to him. So she gets out of the car. I hop in the front and I'm like, what the heck is that? And he goes, I just ignore it. It's every day. But you can't, but you think you're ignoring it, but you're not. It's tearing you down. So my brothers never healed. My brothers have never dealt with any of their stuff ever.
I
And
understand that, but
yeah,
certainly one of the things that made me realize it was, and this is going back to the 80s, the mid 80s. There were people that I saw, grew up with, worked alongside of, who I respected and loved, and they were dying.
yeah.
And that sort of made me step back. Of course, there's a story. I'm not, proud of it, but I'm also not ashamed of it. I knew it was time to stop when I after several years, I put that straw in my nose and I looked down in the mirror and I saw Keith Richards looking back at me. That's how bad I looked. And that was the day I said, that's it, no more. There has to come a time. There has to come a time when you need to say, these people, I love it, are dying. And they're not dying of illnesses, diseases, cancer, things like that. They're dying because who was taking Quaaludes and fell asleep and slammed into a telephone pole, or who had snorted 2 grams of anything and their heart decided to explode. I didn't want that to happen to me. I felt that I had a lot more to do on this planet. So I just can't understand how people in 2024 are doing things that are harmful to their bodies, their minds, and their livelihood, all the people who are around them.
I think though, John, what happens in my humble opinion, and I'm certainly not an expert, but the chemistry of the brain changes the longer we continue on with those drugs, and the drugs that are, smoking pot back in the 70s was, you'd laugh and eat a pizza. Nowadays, you don't even want to go there because it's a completely different thing that happens to people. So I don't know. I'm with you, but you'd think that my one brother would have hit bottom knowing that his daughter overdosed, and he hasn't.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what else I can say. There's in British Columbia, we have it in downtown East Vancouver. That is considered the poorest neighborhood in all of North Vancouver, I'm sorry, North America. And if you go down there, you would be absolutely shocked at what's going on down there. These people are so sick that they're not in the right mind. In my, again, humble opinion, there should be some way to take these people off the streets and say, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you're a danger to yourself and to others. And, we're going to do what we can as society to help you. I think it's terrible that we're walking past all these tent cities, and I don't know. I'm just little Julie from Canada. I don't know how to solve the problem, but it's not good out there. It's not good out there.
Well, I think as an amateur myself, but I've observed everything in life. I don't come from a home where there was any drugs or drinking, so I feel fortunate that I wasn't, encouraged or influenced that way. So I never, I drank socially when I was younger. I smoked pot a couple times in my mid-30s. So I've never done drugs, but I've been around them. I've seen them. I've seen people afflicted. To me, I feel like drugs aren't our only problem. It's a big problem. Drugs and alcohol. People are self-medicating. But I feel like, and I don't know much about Canada, but I know quite a few people from Canada, and they are the nicest, most polite people. And I have a theory here in the US, and I could probably apply it to Canada, that we have become so polite that we're all pretending. We're not living our lives. We're not being true to ourselves. We're not being true to other people. Because you're seen as rude if you're honest. And we're all just pretending. We're pretending to be who, when you go on LinkedIn and you read the profiles, that's not who those people are. A lot of social media, I'm like, you're like, that's not who that person is. They're putting all these happy, inspirational quotes and stuff on Facebook, which is nice because you want it. One friend said, well, I put them up there because it's for me. I want to encourage myself to be like that. So there's nothing wrong with it. I don't judge people for whatever they put out there, but it's to try to present something to the world that you're not, because we're all trying to be that picture of what's expected instead of being honest and real. And we're human and we make mistakes and we're not all smart. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us are better at this than better than that, but we're all trying to be the best at everything. And it's just become so phony and so superficial. And I think there's been a little backlash towards Hollywood because of that too, because Hollywood's so phony and superficial. So I do feel like we're going through a rough ride right now, and we're going to come out better for it. And the drugs are a big part of it, because I think those people, again, I'm an amateur, I don't know, but the people that I know who have been addicted to drugs or alcohol, they're very, very sensitive, and they don't know how to conform. And I think for men, it's harder even because men are not allowed to be emotional. And I think that's changing too. But that's my amateur theory, is that, and that's why women, when they write, the stories that I put together, it was so cathartic for these women. Some of them wrote their own story. Some of them I wrote the story for them. But to have it in print and to see it and say, oh, somebody gets it, or I see it on paper. This is my story. It feels so good to let it out. So what you're doing has, I'd like to hear more, but I'm sure it's really making a difference, because we have to get there and we have to help each other get there and give each other permission to be honest, to be truthful, instead of pretending to be something we're not.
Well, it's the shame and the guilt that we keep inside of ourselves that cause us to go down roads that we shouldn't go down. And then if we're feeling guilty and shameful, then of course we're living in a secret world. And so all our skeletons they're there. They haven't gone anywhere. They're in the closet, and you can bring them out once in a while, but they're locked in there. And you can't get rid of them unless you can be open and honest with what's going on in your life. And I think that's the thing that's really made a big difference in the women that I've been helping to write their stories, is that they've been able to understand that what the shame they've been carrying for all these years is a lot in your head. Sometimes it's not even a shame, it's not a big deal as you've made it into be. And so and like what you said about, and it's in print. So I tell all my ladies, don't forget, this is going out to the world. So there's no more hiding.
Right.
No more hiding.
When you come through. Yep. So when you do these books, is it one woman's story, or is it a group of women's
No,
stories?
it's contributing authors.
Okay.
I have done a couple of ladies where I've helped them with their full story, but I decided, so I've got two different things I've got a few different things that I do, but the first thing that I do is the chapter stories. And so what I found is it's easier to write a chapter of your life rather than trying to write your whole story.
Yep.
So when I talk with women and interview them for the book, we discuss what would be a good story to talk about and how are we going to get that flow going. And I always discuss with them what the reason is. Why is it that you're doing this? And I have a lady that I met last week, actually, and she's writing her own story. So she's not a part of my group, but I'm going to help her with getting the flow through, because her teenage daughter, died just before Christmas from fentanyl. And she went to treatment. And so she has a binder of her daughter's journals and post-it notes. Oh, I just get shivers. And so she's going to write a book about how her experience dealing with her daughter, and then all of her daughter's notes and messages. We're going to put that in the book as well. So I can tell you that probably 95% of the women who write, their number one reason for doing it is, I want to be able to help someone else. And that's what this mother said to me last week. If I can just help one parent, one family, it will be worth what I'm doing.
Yeah, because you're
all
trying to
these books,
assign something positive to something that was so horrific and devastating,
yeah.
that it helps with the healing. It's really a part of the healing.
I'm interested in the business aspect because I am also a writer, and I I have 6 books out. Certainly not in what you've done. Um,
You're getting there though, Jon. You're gonna do it.
I don't know if I'm going to have that many, but
Mm.
the point is, can I assume that they're all self-published books, or
They
you
are
have
all self-published, yes.
so that yeah, and I know how difficult it can be to do that, but I also know how rewarding it could be to
Mhm.
control every aspect
Mhm.
of
Yes,
and not have to depend on other people. Certainly, I depend on editors and cover artists
yes,
and people who format it to make it actually look like a book.
yes,
But there's no agent involved. There's no publisher involved. I am the marketer, the wholesaler, the warehouse,
yeah,
the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. I
yeah,
do it all.
yes,
And even though it's a pain in the neck, when the end of the day comes, I can sit back and yeah, I could tell you the story of when my first book came out, and I had them printed because at the time Amazon did not do hardcover. They didn't do glossy pages for photos. And I remember when the truck came and offloaded the pallet of something like 2,700 books in
Oh my gosh.
cases,
wow,
and uh, when I took the knife and cut open that first box and said to myself, they're either all going to be great or they're going to be the cover is going to be upside down from the text in the book, or chapter 5 is going to be where chapter 22 should be.
yeah,
uh and if it's anybody's fault, it's my own, and that's how it's my own fault if it's not
Mm.
perfect. And when I took that first book out and held it and looked at
Mhm.
it and went through every page from the title page to the copyright page to the preface to the final 315th page, and it was just the way a real book that Random House would have made.
yeah,
I just sat back and said, it's not that I wrote a book, it's that I made it actually happen. And then, of course, and it wasn't just the 2,700 hardcovers. I also had 2,700 paperbacks.
yeah,
Mhm.
Uh, and when that
Wow.
final book of that printing was sold, because I busted my ass to promote it, to tour on them, uh, to do to do more TV shows and radio shows than were logical for anybody. I got to sit back and be ever so grateful. And I'm not going to lie to you, it was nice to know that after the printing costs and the shipping costs, everything else was mine. I didn't have to give 90% of it to a publishing company and only get 10 cents on a dollar, if that.
yeah,
And that sort of made it good too.
yes.
So I applaud you for doing it so many times and making it happen.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Are there any stories that you want to share with us about a woman, what are the women's stories? Anything that came out
Well,
of
there's so many. I mean, there's there's so many. But if I share one, it would be the story of Anna. So Anna is from Chinese descent, and she came to Vancouver. So she's in her 50s now, but she came to Vancouver alone when she was 22 to go to the University of British Columbia. And so she was only in Canada for 2 weeks, and she went to the Catholic Church. So one Sunday, she thought, I'm just going to walk to church rather than take the bus. And she was walking down a very busy street called, anyway, it doesn't matter what it was called, but a very busy street that we have to go to church. And all of a sudden, a van pulled up. Next thing she knew, she's pulled inside, she's raped, she's beaten. She doesn't, even to this day, doesn't know what she was beaten with. He kept telling her she's going to die. It was horrendous. And somehow she got out of that van, somehow, and got out onto the sidewalk. So she's half naked, covered in blood, and cars are just going by. I can't think what's going on, but going by. In the meantime, though, there was a family that actually went to her same church, and they decided to take a loop-de-loop to church that morning rather than going the usual way they went. And they didn't know her at the time, but they came upon her and they stopped. And the wife ran out and grabbed her and got her into the vehicle. And then they got her to the hospital. Now she's still friends with those people today. But she spent 2 months in the hospital. And this fellow was captured. He was arrested. He is still in prison today. She's still having surgery, trouble with her jaws, her teeth, all these years later. But what makes Anna's story so interesting is that in her culture, it is very shameful to talk about this. So no one knew. She kept it quiet from her parents, her friends. Nobody knew what had happened.
How did she explain the
She,
physical?
her one sister who lived in Seattle came to Vancouver, and she begged her sister not to say anything. And of course, it was in the newspapers and everything, but her parents are in China. So it was easy to hide it from them. They told her that she was robbed, that she had been mugged, but they didn't have a clue how badly it was. So then we go forward to Anna wrote, I guess, a couple of years ago now, and she was terrified, and she was not terrified to write it. She was terrified to talk about it because, again, in her culture, it's shameful. You don't talk about stuff like that. And so we got the story out. We've got the story in the book. And then I do a lot of marketing with the ladies. We have a big book launch on social media. We do our best to get it to #1. We've gotten several of them to #1. And Anna contacted me. And she said, Julie, I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, Anna, it's in a book. Like, I don't know what to say, but the book's out there. Like, I can't take if it was before, like, I would certainly honor any woman who said, please take it out.
Right.
I would have, but it was too late. It's done.
Right.
And
it's already gone.
And, yeah, it's out there. And so she messaged me back and she said, this is what I wanted to do. I'm just going to take a deep breath and move forward. You market it. You tell it however you want. You tell people whatever you want to tell them about me. I'm just going to go with it. And it was the most amazing thing. I follow all of the ladies through social media when we're launching, but I paid special attention to hers. And she had over 100 comments. And it was people saying, Anna, I didn't know that happened to you. You are so courageous. You are so brave. You are so brave to tell this story. And it changed her life. She no longer is carrying that guilt, that shame, that cultural don't talk about it. And she's lighter. She's got a smile on her face. And she said, sorry, I'll just finish this one thing. She said to me, Julie, you don't know how badly my country needs this. The women in my country need this.
Do you think that some or a lot of that weight came off of her because now she knows that her story help other women.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said earlier, that's the number one reason the majority of women write their stories. And and I believe them, but I think a lot of saying that is a lot of getting past that, but I want to feel better and it'll help me be more better. I believe that and the reason I focused on women, because I have three sons and they all are like, well, what about, men like me? And I'm like, well, you feel free to go write men like me. But I'm a woman and I'm going to write about women because that's who I know. And I believe that we as women are the glue and the heart that hold the family together. They're super important, of course, but really, I think we're the glue, we're the heart. And so if we can heal as mothers and as women, we can be, we can pass that down. I know even for
Yeah.
myself, as I got better myself and got my head clear, my kids are better. And now I've got grandkids and my grandkids are great. And I'm not worried my grandkids are going to, we have to watch. We never know where people are going to go. But I don't see that generational thing happening with my grandkids. I stopped it. And somebody has to eventually stand up and say, that's enough. Because if we don't, it's going to continue.
Yes, I
Again,
agree.
these are the things that are sort of blowing me away. I'm sure I could find more intelligent words to use there, but it's blowing me away. These stories, the fentanyl overdoses, the people who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s who are still addicted to drugs. And I'm not talking about marijuana. You do not get addicted to marijuana. But drugs, even pharmaceutical drugs,
Mhm.
which I know people who've had problems with that. But and then these innocent women who are just walking down the street in a major city. Here's the problem.
Right.
That's the kind of thing, both of those things are the kind of things I would expect in my country, not in yours. So, and so again, the fact that it's happening there, something like that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's not just happening there. And not just happening here. This is a worldwide problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and and it's just bizarre to me that in a place like Canada, like what Kelly said, the Canadians I've met, they're wonderful people. I mean, not that we don't have wonderful people in America.
Of course you do.
We're a little
yeah.
we're a little confused right now, but we have wonderful people in our country. I just find it so hard to believe that it's happening there by
Yeah.
Well,
you.
yeah, I have another writer. I just would love to be able to quickly tell you about her. She's an outstanding young lady. She she's not, I don't think she's 30 yet, but she went through horrible drug abuse, living on the streets of Vancouver, having all sorts of really serious problems, bad things happening to her. And she ended up having two children that her mother had to care for. That didn't fix her. She's still on the streets. And she was stabbed. She called her mother and said, Mom, I've been stabbed. And the mom, met her at the hospital and just back she went out onto it again. And eventually she went to treatment. And in her story, she said one line that, oh, it stays with me forever. And when she went in, of course, she's a mess. And the counselor or whoever it was that was there with her said, my job is to love you until you can love yourself.
Oh,
Beautiful.
yeah.
And she is now off drugs. She ended up doing counseling work for them. She ended up still, you know, young. She ended up, I've done interviews with her. I've got her on video. She's helped other women, other girls get off the streets at this young age. Now she's moved out of the area and she's actually had a new baby and she's got a husband, and life is looking really wonderful for her. But you know, what if she didn't? What if some, you know, like there's like what happened to you, Jon? You had a moment where it went, aha, I'm not going to do this anymore. Her name's Carrie. Carrie had a moment. It went, yeah, no, you know, and she got the right support. I don't know what it is with other people. You know, it just, maybe they haven't hit rock bottom yet. I don't know what it is, but I know that they can heal, and they can. I think our problem, I'll probably get beat up for this, but I think our problem as a society is that we have gotten soft, and instead of feeling sorry for them, we need to give them tough love because they're going to die or they're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So we need to step up and say, what we're doing here is not working, and we need to give you tough love. That's what you do to your kids when they're going down this, you know, the road that they shouldn't be going down.
People
You know, you
don't
just don't go,
realize
aw, you give them tough love.
a lot of things like that. You you can't do it alone. You need a support system.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I was in the music business. So when I decided to step away from what my problems were, I lost all those friends my entire career.
Mhm.
And there was still, you know, so I might have gone from a hundred friends to four friends. But those four friends, had it not been for them to care for me
Mhm.
and just check on me and make sure that whatever I needed, I had so that I could start my life all over again.
Mm.
And let me tell you, starting your life over at in your mid 30s or even a little later, not easy when
Right.
your life, especially for me as a musician, started uh, you know, as a child, and by the time I graduated high school, I was on a excellent career path in that industry. So from 18 to 35, that was my life. And overnight, I realized I cannot do this anymore.
Okay.
And I had to step away from it.
Yeah.
And had it not been for a very small handful of people who who loved John D'Amore and not John D'Amore the musician, John
Yes.
D'Amore the party guy,
Yeah.
it was essential. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, you have a chapter in one of your books about women in Kenya,
Yes.
you know, which is pretty much
Mm.
on the other side of the world from you.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
How did you find them, and
Yeah.
how did you write so that it was you were able to put first of all, how many women, and how did that happen?
So we have I'm calling them now a chapter because they call themselves Strong Women Like Me, Strong Women in Kenya. So they have a chapter. There's 26 women in their group. And so what happened was I was putting out an author call for chapter writers, and this lady from Kenya, Pauline, had been sort of following me a little bit on social media. And so I reached out to her, and we connected, and I said, well, would you like to write your story? And she said yes. Of course, she's broken English, so she sent it to me. I translated, you know, did my thing, got it in there, and it is beautiful. It's a great story. So then I said to her, you know, Pauline, because they're very poor, and most of these women are widowed, and you know, they don't have jobs. And I said to her, you know, what could I do to help you the women in your village. And we talked about selling beads and all that, and I'm like, I'm not a bead girl. I don't even wear them, and I don't, that sounds like a lot of work. I said, why don't we write a book? Why don't the women in your village write a book? Because in my mind, not only do they um, write a book, but they have the pride that they wrote it. And every penny of proceeds from the books that they write, they've done 3 books now. So every penny goes to them. So if today one of your listeners is kind enough to go to Amazon and purchase one of the Kenya books that the women have written, then immediately, as soon as I see in my account that that book was sold, those proceeds go right over to them. I send it to them immediately because they need money. They need it for food. They need it for just life
Shelter.
essential things.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
I did not know that to go to school in Kenya, you must pay school fees. Doesn't matter who you are. You must have a uniform and you must have socks and shoes. I didn't know that. So these children don't have socks and shoes. They can hardly feed them, let alone give them pay
Yeah.
for school fees. So what the ladies do with the proceeds is they pay for school fees. They get not all the children, but some of the children are back in school. They buy big bags of food and they get together and they come with their little bags and they get their portions. And one day I said to Pauline, "Oh, is that like what is that in that tube?" Because she sends me lots of pictures and stuff that they're doing because I can use it for marketing, just so I can show people that yes, you're helping people. And she said, "Oh, that's soap." And I said, "Oh, like soap for washing?" She said, "No, soap for doing their dishes." I said, "Oh." And she said, we can't afford soap. So we get sick. We're getting sick because we're not cleaning our dishes properly. Here we are. I got like 3 things of soap in my cupboard. Is little things like that
The
we don't.
dishwasher.
Yeah, I got a
Well, and
dishwasher.
they
Like
probably they don't have hot water heaters to give them
no,
hot water
no,
to
when
clean the.
they cook outside, and some women live in huts still. So it's really morphed into this great big thing, which is good. But it's and then the pride that they have. So I get pictures of them when they do their book in a group and holding their book. And you can just see the smiles on their faces. And half of the ladies can't read it because they speak Swahili and they write Swahili. Luckily, Pauline does know some English. So everything is done by hand. They, of course, have no computers. So everything is done by
So then
hand.
she has to mail the
Yeah, so I send the money.
pages to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So I send the money. She mails it to me. We cross our fingers it gets here. It comes. Now I gotta type it all out, format it all together. We get the cover and everything done, and then we launch it. So it's and it's wonderful in several different ways. The money that's coming in, as you probably know, Jon, unless we hit it big in the books, there's not a lot of money in books, but there's other things in books. And for these ladies, there's such a huge, immense pride that they are published authors and they've published their different stories in 3 books, and any proceeds they get. So Pauline is my go-to lady. She's the in charge. So everything goes to her. And then, she'll send pictures and stuff of what they're doing with the money. They meet twice a month. I send money for lunch. So they all get together and they have lunch and they talk about the books and how it actually all started. Funny enough, is that Pauline, the lady who wrote in the book, of course, that's how it started. But they were studying. Because I do have something called a Women Like Me community where women write short stories in community books. And so we did one that was called Letters to Our Younger Selves. And so I had sent Pauline a couple of those books and she was teaching them. So she would take a chapter, a woman's little, 2 or 3 pages in the book, and she would interpret it to them, and they're learning about it. It's just
Are they
amazing.
are
They're
they
just doing
learning
well.
English because of the books?
They do, yeah. So some of the ladies are getting better with English, but they're
And
still,
yeah,
most
yeah.
are still speaking Swahili.
Okay, let's move on because you were talking about the books and
Yes,
business and stuff, and we know how Amazon likes to keep their fair share.
yes,
Um, on your books, all your books.
yes,
So I'm gonna make up a number. There are 20 stories in a book, so there's 20 chapters. The
yes.
money comes in from from Amazon or
Yep,
whatever access you have to outside sales. Do
yes.
you then does everybody get an equal share of the
No,
20?
no,
No. Okay.
no. So how it works is this program is free. Not one woman, I've had over 160 women now. Not one woman has paid one penny to participate in this program.
No, no. I mean, and then when the book makes money, do you distribute it to them?
I'm in the red.
I understand that.
I'm in the red. If
You know,
if if I make it big one day, so come on, everybody out there, buy books. I am
absolutely.
happily ready to pass along, to
I
the others. But
after my first
I have an
after my
agreement.
first book came out, I'm sorry, I don't even mean to interrupt, but after my first book came out, and I said, I sold those 5,400 printed copies,
Yes.
but mostly through through the mail, and of
Yeah.
course I then had to have books printed to do tours across the country and have them shipped and blah blah blah. Uh, one I remember one year somewhere around 2018. My first book came out in 2012, and I had toured every year after that, every time a book came out until 2018. Then 2019, I spent writing a book, was ready to tour in 2020, and well, then we had the pandemic, and so that destroyed
Yes.
that. Okay, but
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember in 2018, I did a tour, and my accountant did my taxes, and she said, "Well, Jon, you had your best year yet. You only lost $3,700."
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
after a tour. And
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
but the thing is, if you do that, I do it. You know me, Kelly. I do these things. I love doing readings. Uh, and then when the pandemic hit, I started doing readings on Zoom,
Yes.
which was good. I won't say and bad, but and not good because a lot of the people who attended the Zoom readings,
Yes.
which was great now because it wasn't just 50 or 60 people in a bookstore. It was, 80 people
Right.
around the
All over the
world
country. Yeah.
Yes.
who were watching. But the not good part was that the majority of these people had already purchased my books.
Yeah. Oh,
It's not
yes.
like,
Yeah.
okay, come and listen to me and
Yeah.
then buy my book.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
pretty much already had it. Now they just wanted to see the author do
Yeah.
a reading.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
know what you mean when you say you're in the red.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would like to, if you would give me just a minute, I would like to explain what the program is about
Yes,
because
please.
a lot of times what happens is I'll get writers and then they'll say, well, aren't you being paid? Oh, well, that's not good. So I would like to explain so if somebody out there is listening and they want to participate, they can understand what it's all about. So as I said, no one pays anything. What happens is I pay for everything. I pay for the book to be published. I pay for the marketing, the whole thing. Every single woman who writes in the books can purchase their book at the author price.
right.
They can sell them. They can market them. They can do whatever they want with them. I've had ladies put them I've got them in a museum in Alberta, at a native reserve. I've got them, they're all over the place. And I get nothing, and that's totally fine. The other thing they get is they do podcasts. They do videos. They get the coaching through the writing. They can extract their story and use it for whatever they want. I don't own their stories. They can do book signings. So the number one goal is for them to promote healing in their lives so they can heal and help their family. The next goal is to help the reader, if they are having issues as well. And then I want to lift women up financially if I can, because in all honesty, the majority of the ladies that I have had who have written in these books could not have done it had I charged them.
But
Couldn't.
if women want to join your writing community, how do they do it? Because I'm sure you're not done. I'm sure you're
Oh
looking
no,
to
I'm not done. No.
Yeah.
I've got all sorts of things on the go. So what they can do is you can find me on social media, super easy. Julie Fairhurst, I'm all over the place. But if they go to Women Like Me Community dash Julie Fairhurst, that is the Women Like Me community group. And in that community group, that's where we have a magazine now that's a digital magazine that's free, where they can actually put, if they're selling something, they can put their services in there, they can write articles in there. It goes out to the public, it's free. There's constantly writing opportunities popping up in that group. And then also when there's an author call for the chapter series, then if they haven't written in the chapter book, they have an opportunity to do that as well. So it's a very positive group. It's a fabulous group of women. I've got writers from all over the world. I've got Iceland. I've got obviously Kenya, Mexico, Spain,
Wow.
all over the place.
Yeah, I just looked up the website. We'll put it on the video so people can see it too.
Yeah.
And they can learn more about it. But yeah, I mean, you are just doing so much with it. And to give these women the opportunity, I did the exact same thing with Tales of a Lioness. I didn't charge them anything. And when we get a payout, I distribute it equally between the women. And then I said, if you want to buy it at cost, you can resell it and make your own money. And to do whatever you want with it. So, that gives women the opportunity. For me, the women that were in my book, it was mostly just cathartic. They weren't trying to make any money or anything. But the women in Kenya, what you've done with them is open the whole world to them and empower them and help them financially, however much they're making, if it's a lot or not.
Yeah.
But something to give them, I don't know, something happens when you create something physical or music or something that you've created. There is something happens, I think, in your pride and your esteem. And so hats off to you for doing this for women who all over the world now have access to doing something like this. So we'll definitely share it with our viewers.
Absolutely.
And put a link. I'm looking on the website right now. womenlikemestories.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you would want on the video?
Well, they can go there, and there's links to get to the Facebook group. So yes, yeah, they can definitely go there, and that's a nice spot to go to because you can see and read about some of the authors, and
yeah, there's a self-esteem confidence journal. Yeah, you just tied it all together to really empowering women. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. Unfortunately, it's that first of all, I just want to say something, because I said something earlier, and I didn't want the person I said it about to take it the wrong way. But Keith, it's not like you really looked bad, but I looked like you in 1985, and so I know that after the apocalypse, whatever it might be, whether we destroy ourselves or an asteroid hits our planet, Keith Richards will be the only one walking the planet. He's and so no disrespect to Keith, but Julie, your stories opened up so much for me, especially to find out that what's happening here in our country, where Kellie and I are,
US.
we're not alone. It's even in places where we think it might be a colder paradise than what we would have liked,
Yes.
but it's happening there too.
Yes.
And it's sad and it's a shame. And it just gives us something to think about, that we really need to make our planet a better place. The
Yes.
whole planet, not
Yes.
just the United States, not just Canada, the entire planet.
Yes.
So let's we'll close on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we will. Like I said earlier, I think we are in the process. We're going to go through some ugly times to come out better for it on the other side.
Sure.
So I think we will.
Otherwise, Kelly and I are moving up to Vancouver. It's got to be better.
Yeah.
So there you go. I certainly know many women personally that I'm going to reach out to tell them to reach out to you,
Yeah.
because I cannot tell you how many people have come to me and said, I need to write a book. I have a story to tell, but they really don't have
Yeah.
18
They don't have a
chapters.
vehicle. They don't know where to start, what to
Right.
do.
And they don't have
Yeah.
a full book to write. They only have a chapter.
Yeah.
And that's
Chapter's
all
the
they can
best
tell.
place
And
to
that's
start.
what you need.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'll be pointing a lot of people.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate that so much.
Well,
Oh,
thanks for joining us and sharing this with us, because it's kind of unique and what you're doing, and you're helping a lot of women at
Yes.
at one time. So yeah, thanks for doing that. That's how we heal the world, you know? We take what we know and what we can do, what we can offer, and just help as many people as we can. That's
Yeah.
what our duty, I think,
Yeah.
for all of us.
Absolutely, I agree.
Help
Yes.
each other.
Thanks a lot, Julie.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having
thank
me
you.
on your show. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you,
Take
Julie.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All views expressed in this video belong to Kelly Nicholson, John D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain.
Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kelly and John.